just hang out here for a minute while this plays. But see, you would know that it was over if you had your...
That's all right. I trust you.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to Deeper Foundations, where conscious building meets personal transformation. I'm your host, Nick Stevens, a builder, project manager, and lifelong explorer of the deep layers beneath the surface of construction and self. In this podcast, we go beyond blueprints and budgets. We talk about sacred geometry, emotional intelligence in the field, healing through hands-on work, and the stories that shape who we are in the trades and beyond. Whether you're swinging a hammer, managing a project, or just curious about the heart behind construction, this space is for you. So let's dive in. You're listening to Deeper Foundations.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Deeper Foundations. Thanks for tuning in, and let's just jump right into the episode. So I'm your host, Nick Stevens, and this is my brother, Neil, and glad to have you on the show, man.
How's it going, brother?
It's going pretty well.
Good, dude. I'm happy to be here. This is fun. It's exciting. New endeavor for you coming on, so it's an honor to be a part of the first few episodes here.
Yeah, the vision, the creative process. So this is kind of one of the first episodes that I've done live in person, and so that's a new experience. Done a couple that have just been recorded in audio, done some Zoom calls, but this is the first in-person one. So we're taking advantage of this because you are in Ohio right now for a visit. Yep. You live up in Nova Scotia in Canada. You're down here for a visit, and just
back in the homeland.
Back in the homeland of Ohio,
right.
Buckeye,
right.
Through and through.
Yeah, dude, it's good to be back home. It's been such a nice visit, getting to spend time with you. Always special. So, this is my first podcasting experience, although I feel like I've listened to countless hours. So it's kind of fun to be on this side of the mic, a new experience for me. So yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, first time for everything. Same with me. I've never done a live recording of a podcast, and just trying to take advantage of different media opportunities within this Deeper Foundations podcast. So my brother's been in town for a little over a week now, or about a week, and we just got out of a really beautiful plant medicine ceremony.
Yep.
We'll maybe save that for a later date or a second or third season.
We need a few hours, I think, to unpack that.
A few hours, days, weeks, years. So it was very transformative for both of us. And like I said, we're just kind of coming out of that. And let's focus on the construction side of Deeper Foundations. So today's episode, we are going to kind of talk about how you got into construction, the reasons why you gravitated towards it. So why don't you just tell a little bit about your story as far as career-wise? Maybe just kind of give a little bit of a background, maybe just where you grew up, how you ended up where you are today, what you did as a job, and where you're at now with your career path.
Yeah, sure. So grew up in Ohio, played a lot of sports growing up. After high school, a little kind of lost with what I was going to do. I have a tendency to follow in the footsteps of my brother on a lot of things. He's always been an inspiration for me and somebody to look up to. So I don't know if you know this about Nick, but he went to fire school early on, I think right after high school as well, or about that time. So I actually was kind of trying to figure it out. Didn't really mesh well with the college that I was taking on, looking for something different. So I was like, firefighting sounds pretty cool. I'm going to maybe jump into that. So I went to fire school myself. Along with that comes paramedicine as well, because in Ohio you kind of have to have both in order to be successful. So I went to paramedic school, found that to be very enjoyable. It really spoke to me, did really well in the training, and so I just immediately took a job as a paramedic working in a private service. Did that for quite a few years, started as an EMT, moved up to paramedic, and really just grew in that industry. started on the ambulance, ended up moving to Columbus, working in the ER. So I worked at Mount Carmel East in the ER for, I think it was maybe 3 years, all night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It was really awesome, taxing on the body, but if you want to work in the hospital, nighttime's kind of the time to do it,
Okay. Why is that?
The lead people aren't necessarily there all the time. So your head manager's not there. It just brings a little bit of a different vibe. It seems like it's a little bit, although the situations you deal with sometimes are a bit more intense, the people you work with tend to be a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
I found it was just a little bit less serious.
Gotcha.
Than if you're at the daytime shift.
Okay.
And you get that shift diff, so you're always making a couple extra bucks an hour, which
right,
matters.
Yeah, it's always nice to have.
Yeah, for sure. So did that for 3 years. Found myself questioning is this what I'm just gonna be doing forever? Feeling that kind of wanderlust of what should I be doing? There's got to be something more. I need some adventure.
Sure. So you're specifically talking about staying in Columbus, Ohio. Is this my where I want to put my roots down? So because you stayed in the medical field for a little bit longer, working outside of Columbus, but you're kind of talking about how you're just is Columbus it? Am I going to spend the next 40 years?
Not even just location.
Okay.
I was really enjoying the medical field, but I was feeling I still wanted to expand myself.
Yeah.
So I was actually just toying around at different things. I had actually applied to be a river rafting guide in Colorado, and I had an interview for that, and I was offered the job. I was actually getting ready to accept it, but I had also applied to work on cruise ships as a paramedic around the same time. So I was getting ready to accept this position as a river rafting guide, and then even maybe just 3-4 days later, before I fully accepted it, I got an interview to work for Princess Cruises.
Okay.
And that was just I wasn't expecting it, and it just kind of fell into my lap, and I'm well, this is going to give me the adventure that I need, as well as keeping the skill set that I've worked hard for.
Sure.
And so, I bailed on the river rafting, had a great interview, and got the job with Princess Cruises. And then that just kind of catapulted into some real adventure, and went on and worked as a medic on the cruise ship for 3 years. I did quite a few cruises, got to see a lot of the world that would have just been out of my grasp otherwise.
Yeah.
So that was a really special time, and really enjoyed that. But as you go on those adventures, you tend to meet like-minded people and gravitate towards them. And so that's actually where I met my wife. She was working on board one of the ships that I was on, and we just started dating when we were on board. Luckily, she was living in Toronto at the time, and we were close enough. It was a 6-hour drive. So I was able to keep that relationship going off the ship as well, because it can be quite challenging. If you have a significant other in another country, sometimes it just doesn't pan out. So
Sure.
Yeah, we were lucky to have that. But with that relationship blossoming, I really wanted to maintain that. It was so important to me. And I knew, that in order to do that, I kind of needed to step away from the cruising job, just because, you're leaving for 3-4 months at a time. It's just it's a lot.
Yeah.
So needed to step back from that to pursue her, basically.
Sure. And, you probably had to give up a certain lifestyle as far as living on the cruise ship, at least
That's
from
true.
the stories that I heard from you.
There's a lot of temptation there, and a lot of, things happening. So if you want to be serious about it, you really got to dive in.
Yeah.
And, I wanted it to be successful, so I wanted to give it my all.
Nice.
Yeah. But that kind of does lead a bit into what happened next for me in the construction industry and what happened. So as I kept going up to Toronto to see her, I was spending more and more time. So I did take another paramedic job at that moment, but I was working as a contract medic in North Dakota. So they were shorter,
that's right.
Shorter stints. I was going to spend a month with Victoria, and then I would fly to North Dakota and work for a month. And that schedule is a little bit easier. to deal with, and the money was just like out of this world. I mean,
I remember that.
They
yeah.
were so short staffed. They were paying guys like $500 a day to come out and work. And so if you can pull off 30 days in a row, that's a pretty big,
nice little chunk of change. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good to do that. I think I did that for maybe like 2 years, maybe not even. And I kind of had a little bit of a falling out with the higher ups at the company I was working for. And at that time I was getting pretty burnt out on medicine and just like not feeling it. So
yeah.
I wanted to switch it up. And then in order to do that and spend the amount of time in Toronto that I wanted to, I needed to figure something else out. And so, I don't know how much the government's going to love to hear this, but I needed to find some work. And so the only thing I could really do at the time was just do some under the table stuff, working for cash and finding like odd jobs here and there. And I put myself out online, and eventually found a guy that ran his own small landscape construction business.
Okay.
And he's just like heard my story, and he's just like, yeah, dude, like come down and we'll give you a shot. I had some construction skills, like just working, around you. Like we've done like a few like small projects at home and just like
sure
bits and bobs. And I always felt confident like working with my hands.
Yep.
And so, I know how to hold a drill and swing a hammer. So I just like went, and I know how to work hard. So it's just like, sure, let's give it a shot, and worked with him. And, we hit it off pretty good. He's a bit of a rough guy. I mean, he had his own quirks and he's a character himself, but he,
sure.
He luckily had a big heart and
yeah,
was a good dude. So he took me on, and I ended up working, I think for like two or 3 years with him, kind of off and on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously doing landscape construction, you're taking a break in the winter time, which can be pretty tough.
Yeah.
So that was like my first intro into like a proper everyday, like 7 a.m., 7 p.m., long work days.
Hard working days, working with your hands. Man. I mean, hardscapes is really, really difficult. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of hard jobs out there in construction, but you're moving a lot of like concrete, gravel, like big stones every day, and working in
yards of gravel. I mean, just like running wheelbarrows for 8 hours. It's tough, but
right.
At least it keeps you fit. That was always what I was just like, at least I'm like
working out during the day and
getting some sun. I love being outside every day. Like that was super, super great. And, money was pretty good. Always could be better, but as a laborer without having a bunch of skills, you can only really ask so much of somebody at that time.
Yeah.
So it was a good intro to get started.
Yeah. And so you spent a few years doing that, and really what you were kind of like working towards was building this relationship with your wife, Victoria, and
right.
Working towards like getting residency. You could kind of see a future for yourselves where you're like, oh, I love this person, like I want to build my life with this person, and so you're working towards residency and moving forward with all of that.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. That was the whole purpose of putting myself out there and doing that. And also, like, it was a lot of fun to live in a city, living in Toronto for the first time. Like, we grew up in the country, so it was like Columbus is like definitely a city, but like Toronto is like another step up, it's just like
it's a little bit. Yeah.
It's a bit bigger,
bigger.
Different environment. So that was cool. We were living like right down in the heart of it. Queen and Roncesvalles, if anybody knows the area, it's called Parkdale. It was a cool spot to be, a bit grungy and like kind of gritty, but in like kind of a cool way.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome spot. We were like 10-minute bike ride to the Bud Stadium, where they just have like just amazing concerts all the time, and just the nightlife and the flow, really cool.
Yeah.
Can be overwhelming, but it was certainly fun.
For sure. I loved coming up and visiting. I think I came up, a handful of times, and loved the area. Great vibes. Loved coming up and visiting and seeing the city.
Yeah, and just she had been there for so long, so she had a really like great group of friends. So she worked in musical theater at the time, and so that group of people can be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they know how to have a good time. That's for sure.
Great. Great. So as your time in Toronto, I guess good question is how much time did you spend in Toronto?
It was about 3 years. I feel like there's so many moments, like everything I've done in my life is in this weird like 3 year span. It's like,
really?
It's kind of been this like cycle. So we were in Toronto for about 3 years. Yeah.
Nice. So at that point, you'd put your time in as kind of this hardscape landscaping guy. Where did your life take you after that 3 year cycle was kind of coming to a close? I'm trying to refresh my memory because you've been gone from living in Ohio for over a decade now, right?
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about. Yeah.
I know. It goes quick.
So I guess I've been in Canada for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we did that 3 years in Toronto. And after getting into that 3 year mark, I was really just like not vibing with the city anymore. It's a hard place to live.
Yeah.
It has a lot of pluses, but it's very expensive. Even though my job was like paying me half decent, you're really like working hard just to
stay afloat.
Rent, just to stay afloat. And I was like, growing up in the country, I definitely am more drawn to like greener spaces and more like a little bit of a more rural lifestyle. So I was ready to get out of the city.
Yeah.
And I'd always told Victoria, she's originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's where she was born. She was raised in Ontario. That's kind of how she was in Toronto. But I told her that if there's ever an opportunity for us to move to Nova Scotia, that I wanted to like make that happen.
Yeah.
And so opportunity arose. I'd gotten my permanent residency at this time, so that was nice. Like I was able to work legally and like things were moving forward with that. And I think right around that time we'd already been married. We got married in 2017. So yeah, we'd been married for just like 1 year.
Yeah.
Just maybe a little even under at that point.
Okay.
So I was ready to go. Her grandparents were retiring.
Nice.
They were well retired, but they were moving to a retirement home because they finally kind of reached that age where like they needed some more assistance.
Right.
And we always said, if you're going to sell your place, like let us get a first grab at it.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. They're like, okay, we're making the move. Do you guys want to buy the condo? And and actually at this moment, I was living with my boss at the time because Victoria was out doing some performing in Calgary. So I was spending 3 months at his place and things were just like really starting to get rocky. And we were like starting to argue a lot at work and just like it was not working anymore for us.
Yeah.
So this kind of all fell at one time. Like this house became available. Tristan and I had like a big falling out. And she's like, do you want to...
Tristan being the hardscaping, landscaping guy.
That was, showing me the way there. So so we just jumped on. We're like, let's go. She gave me the option. Do you want to do it? And I said, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So we made the move. We bought the condo.
Nice.
Thank goodness we were able to like make that happen at the time. And so I ended up flying out there like 2 months before Victoria was done with her thing. And through the good old nepotism, I was able to get a position on a hardscape crew up in Halifax.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Victoria's cousin's husband.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was a part of Trim Landscaping up there. He was a project manager, and so it was nothing to just like jump on. They're a pretty big company, and so guys are kind of cycling in and out there all the time.
Sure.
Had some skill set, so they just like threw me right in.
Yep.
So thank goodness for that. But it was kind of a rough couple of months just being up there on my own. I was sleeping downstairs at her aunt and uncle's place, taking the bus into work during the winter time.
Doing what you had to do to make it happen. And
pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so after living that for a month or two, I was just like not feeling construction. And I was like trying to dive back into some other skill set. I was looking at trying to get my paramedic certificate transferred up to Canada, but it's just an absolute nightmare.
They don't make it easy, basically.
They do not make it easy.
Yeah.
So like pretty much they wanted me to go back to school from basic.
Day one.
Basic
EMT, like start over.
Yeah. And so, and I had 10, 12 years of experience, and I was trained at a higher level than even their basic paramedics are in Canada. So it would have been just like dropping to the lowest part of the totem pole and not really great pay. So
Sure.
I was looking for something else. I wasn't going to go do that schooling.
Yeah.
And I actually found a job posting to work with adults with disabilities, something that I never thought that I would ever get into. I just never crossed my mind.
Right. Now, did that job require you to have any type of medical background?
So not medical background, but they were looking for people that had like some social
little personality, like just being able to
like social worker, but not like with a degree, like just something like in that kind of realm of like working with people, whatever that be. Obviously there was a lot of people that did have some medical knowledge, and that really just made me a shoo-in. Like they were over the moon to have somebody that had a skill set like I did. Yeah. So I applied for that and went through their, quick training program, and just like kind of getting over the nerves of working with adults with disabilities. I mean, I learned so much through that time. And to be honest, starting off, it was like kind of anxious. Like I haven't been around a lot of people with disabilities. I don't really know how to like act around people with disabilities. And I think there's probably a lot of people that feel that way. I mean, like if you see somebody that has, a disability like that, sometimes it can make you feel uncomfortable just because you don't know how to interact with them or like whatever. So, excuse me. But that changed very quickly. I mean, showing up on the job site for the first day with those nerves, and one of the guys, so I worked in a house, 2 separate houses, but the first house had 3 guys, all nonverbal, needing full care. Wow. 24/7. So there's a house full of like 3 staff members pretty much all the time.
24/7. Like you're there, live in staff.
At nighttime, they drop it down to 1.
Sure.
Because everybody's just sleeping, but there's always somebody there.
Got it.
And daytime, there's like sometimes even 4 staff because there's lots going on.
Yeah.
But like walking in that first day, not really knowing what to expect. One of my favorite guys, his name's Peter Smith. What a gem. He walked up to me right when I got in. He's holding his coffee cup. He's always got a coffee cup with him. And what he does is he walks up to me and he immediately turns around to like show me his backside. And the other staff are just like, oh my gosh, like he wants you to pull up his pants. And I'm just like, what? Like, they're like, yeah, dude, like that's a good thing.
That's
like,
a privilege.
Yeah. They're just like pull, like, just like he's got sweats on. They're like, just give it, like he just wants it up a little higher. And so that was just like just a funny, cute way of just like him immediately like breaking the ice with me and just like coming into the house. And yeah, man, it was honestly one of the most special jobs that I had ever had. Like, just the amount of love that there's hard times, don't get me wrong.
Right.
There's some hard times that you have to deal with and help them get through.
Sure.
But a lot of love too. A lot of love in that house, and like, so you can learn a lot from those guys.
Yeah. I really saw you kind of like grow into, your kind of like adult, man mode personality. Like you just kind of like opened yourself up. I think you really like got really good at cooking, taking care of other people in a different way. You kind of transition from this like medical field where you're maybe administering like medications or taking care of broken legs. Yeah. And this was more of like you were taking care of people, but then there was like this emotional thing, where like with the paramedic side or working in the hospital, you're almost kind of like detached a little bit from the emotional because you're just
you
like,
want to be guarded. You don't want to get too involved in like that person personally. It's very just like
transactional. I'm here to fix this thing. I'm here to give you this, and then you're off and you're to the next one, on the next run. And I think it just kind of like cracked you open emotionally, and you really started like developing connections deeper because you're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on 2 days, 3 days off,
holidays,
2 days,
nights,
3 days.
Weekends, sharing meals, eating together. It's literally like taking care of a family member.
Right. And you're spending Thanksgivings and Christmases with these people, and they were adults, so they were a little bit older. What was the age range that you were taking care of?
Yeah, they were all like in their 60s.
Okay. Yeah. And all men?
All
or
men, yeah.
All men.
So in the one house, there's 3 guys that were in their 60s, and then we worked in another house exclusively, and he was a younger guy. He unfortunately passed away like 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Just really unexpected, and he was in his he's like 36.
Okay.
When we were taking care of him.
Yeah.
He was in a house by himself just because he had a bit more behavioral issues. Like,
yeah.
he just, he could like tend to like swat at you, or he would just tend to like test the boundaries of like what's okay. And if he was upset, like maybe he would be like pounding on the wall or like something like that.
Yeah.
And it was quite intimidating to go take care of Mike at first, and just like, because he has a little bit of a reputation or whatever, but
yeah.
he ended up being like the one that I bonded with the most.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, it's so reciprocal of like, if you give him the respect and like, set the boundaries, and like you treat him with respect and you're kind, and like he'll give it back to you.
Right.
But also if you're not there full in, and you're just like not respecting him, or just like
showing up as a job and kind of like disrespecting,
he'll make it hard for you.
Yeah.
But he can also make it very special for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's just,
that's cool that you're able to learn that and dive into this new, job and develop these really beautiful relationships. I think it just kind of, I don't want to say like helped you grow up, but it was almost kind of like having a family and taking care of other people rather than just kind of like taking care of yourself or taking care of your life partner. Like you had these people that were dependent on you. And so I think you just like elevated your game as a human being, being in that job.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely worth it.
That's awesome. Well, that being said, I think it's a good time to take a break. We've got this segment on the show called Construction Confessions. And yeah, we're just going to take a short break here, dive into that, and then we'll be right back. So enjoy Construction Confessions, and we'll be back with Neil and talk about his life. Construction Confessions. A raw, real, and sometimes uncomfortable space to share truths from the job site. Whether it's a funny mishap, a lesson learned the hard way, or just a crazy, unbelievable story, these short confessions are here to remind us that we are all human. Sometimes you're the Buddha, and sometimes you're the asshole. All of the confessions are shared with the intention of connection, reflection, and healing. The stories you're about to hear are true. The names have been changed to protect all parties involved.
Hey everyone, my name's Derek, and I got a construction confession. My crew and I were working on this house, and we were doing some work up on the roof. Started off early in the morning before everybody goes to work, and the husband and wife came out just to say hello, ask us if we need anything. And the husband was letting us know that he was taking off to work, and the wife was going to be at home. We did let her know that it was going to be super loud inside the house, and we kind of recommended that she maybe take off for the afternoon. That way she didn't hear any like loud banging of hammers and nail guns and all that. And she reassured us that she would be fine, no big deal. So as the morning kind of proceeded, obviously the husband took off for work, and we were all working up on the roof, and all of a sudden the wife came out, and she was wearing a bikini and went out and laid by the pool. Pool was a pretty good distance away from the house, so we obviously could see each other. She could see us up on the roof, and we could see her, kind of getting comfortable laying out by the pool, and we just didn't really think much of it and just kept working. And all of a sudden she started to put suntan lotion on and took her top off. And yeah, she ended up just laying there for a couple hours with her top off, sunbathing, and thought nothing of it. And we kind of got a free show, and that was it. And after a couple hours, she went back in. It's getting towards the end of the workday, and the husband came home, and they both came out just to check on the status of the roof. And obviously the wife still, had put clothes back on. and acted as nothing happened.
All right, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed Construction Confessions, another good story. And back here with my brother, Neil Stevens, talking about his life and how he kind of got into construction, sharing his experiences up in Canada, moving from Ohio up there, falling in love, getting married, and starting a new life in the Great White North.
Indeed.
The
Great White North.
The Great White North. Yeah, you chose a pretty...
It's pretty rainy up there, actually.
Up in Nova Scotia. Yeah, I've visited a few times, and I love it. And I love it between July and October.
Same.
And then the other times is like, this is a little rough. Yeah. Right. But, I think what helps with it is that it's just absolutely stunning and beautiful, so when those, when that weather, kind of rolls in and it's a little rainy, you still have these like beautiful sceneries, and just like the air is crisp.
That's right.
It smells good. It feels good up there.
We try not to tell too many people about it, because we don't want to give the secret away.
I know. That's what a lot of people told me when I would come up and visit.
Like, you can come back, but just don't tell everybody.
Yeah. And they would be like, "Are you gonna move here because your brother and your sister-in-law?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I could see myself living up here for like part of the year." And they're like, "All right, but don't tell anybody when you go back home." I was like, "They're like, you're allowed to come up here because your brother and sister-in-law are, but like, don't bring anybody else with you. You got to marry a Canadian, or just we don't want you."
That's right.
No, everybody up in Canada, love them. Great people. People of Halifax is just very welcoming and very loving. So I love going up there and visiting. But yeah, let's jump right back in and kind of pick up where we left off. And that was just, your job working with adults that had disabilities, and where you were at. I think we were just kind of talking about you elevating your game as a human being and really making like emotional connections with people that were dependent on others to help them do daily tasks, and like I said before, you just kind of elevated your game where you were like cooking and cleaning and, again, just being of service to others, really just kind of like opened your heart, and you just really grew emotionally as a person. But why don't you talk about what that was like to be at that job and then come to a point in your life where you actually transitioned out of that job?
Yeah, so funny enough, around that 3-year mark, Neil starts getting pretty antsy.
Yeah.
What's going on?
The pattern.
Yeah, the pattern. So as much as I was still enjoying what I was doing, I again was just like feeling like I needed to expand into something else.
Yeah.
Having that history of working with my hands, and I've always been interested in like a bit more metal, I guess, for lack of a better term, machines, engines. So I started actually going to school for a diesel mechanic. I wanted to dive into that side of myself, and I always wanted to, work on some bigger pieces of equipment. Like, that's pretty good money. Get involved into that. So I started going to the community college for that. So this was 2020. This was right, pandemic's pretty much in full swing.
Gotcha.
At this time.
Had you started school before that?
I only really was there for the first semester. Like, we had finished the first semester going into the second one. COVID was really happening at the home that I was working at. Like, we were wearing masks full time at that point. So I'm still at the home, going to school, just kind of in this weird, as with everybody, transition-y, not really knowing what's going on.
The uncertainty, you're following protocol, you're following the rules, everybody's trying to see how this thing is going to play out. Exactly. So again, you're wearing masks, you're actually being super cautious and careful because you are
we're
working.
Taking a temperature every day when we come in, we're taking COVID tests every few days just to and the people I work with, they all have compromised immune systems. Michael, for instance.
The people you were taking care of.
Yeah, the people I was taking care Michael, for instance, would breathe from a stoma. He would do breathing treatments 4 times a day, like on tons of medications. And like, so
he was really like kind of one of those people that we were worried about, getting COVID and passing away because he had a compromised immune system and respiratory issues.
He would end up in the hospital regularly from a cold.
Just from a regular cold.
Yeah.
Just a regular cold.
Because he was so susceptible to that.
Wow. So it didn't take much to get him into a situation where like he needed a lot of medical attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So with that, COVID in full swing, and this was like right around when vaccination was like happening. It was starting to roll out. We were not considered in the first round of vaccines.
Okay.
Which they were giving it all to all of the healthcare workers first.
Sure. But nurses, doctors,
medics, whatever.
Yeah.
But as with so many things in life, the people with disabilities and their caretakers just get pushed off to the side. And so they just like did not put us in with that first round.
Interesting.
Hindsight, I'm thankful that was the way that it happened.
Sure.
But so we didn't get our vaccines early on, and that's okay. But we did find out that they were going to make it a requirement for us when it was available to us.
Okay, so the government was requiring you, or I wouldn't say the government, but like your employer was requiring you.
It was a nonprofit, so the employer made the decision.
Okay.
I did work for a government union, so I was in a government union, but it was through a nonprofit. It's kind of this weird thing in between.
Yeah.
But they did make that decision, and I was personally like battling with those choices. You know, my wife was pretty against the idea of vaccination. I didn't want to do it, but I knew that like
your
in order
job,
to keep my job, and like I love these guys. Of course, I want to keep them safe. They have a compromised immune system, so I was like, I was gonna do it for sure. When it came around and like I was able to sign up, I was just gonna do it so I could keep my job.
Yep.
What actually happened was Michael, the one who had the biggest risk from all of this, contracted COVID.
He had the
he had the breathing treatments and the stoma
and stoma.
Everything. So he actually contracted COVID and gave it to most of the employees.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah, I did. We didn't know it was happening, but I showed up to work one day.
Yeah.
And I was just like, as soon as I got in, I went and took my temperature, and I had like a 99, and it was just like, okay, you got to go. Like, you're right out of here.
Right.
And they sent me to get my COVID test, came back positive. It was all happening at the same time. Like Michael, like same day.
Sure. And he maybe not contracted it from like he would frequently go to the hospital for these treatments or just to get checkups.
It was probably just some like one of the other care workers.
Okay.
Just you know how it goes. It just comes in.
Sure.
Whatever. So
right.
Anyway, that happened. Everybody was okay. Everybody made it out of the woods. Michael did a great job. Like he didn't even end up in the hospital.
From having COVID, didn't end up in the hospital.
He was fine. You know. Like my experience with COVID was fine.
Pretty chill.
I was maybe sick for a day, and then that's it. And then locked into my house for 2 weeks after that.
Because basically somebody from an organization came in and just kind of like handled the situation. Was just like, you have to be quarantined, you have to do this, you have to be here, you can't show up to work, and kind of set all these rules in place for how you all were going to interact because you had tested positive. You were part of this non-profit organization that was kind of tied into the government. So it was not just like you working a construction job or at a convenience store where you just like don't go to work. You were actually like completely managed by a government agency that was just like, you got to do it this way.
Calling, checking in on us, like full lockdown quarantine, like fines if you leave your house.
Right.
They had to hire like rotational nurses to come in and take care of all the guys because we're all not even allowed to be there anymore. Even if you weren't sick and didn't test positive, like you were immediately removed from the
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, it was like hardcore.
Yeah, super scary for the guys that needed your care, and like what big transition for them.
Felt bad for them because, you know, they're all on routine and just like seeing the familiar loving faces, and then all of a sudden we're all gone.
Yeah.
And there's just random people in there with no idea how to like properly take care of these guys, trying to make it work for 2 weeks.
Right. Well, and then just all like the fear-based control or the fear-based uncertainty of what was going on, then, they're dealing with that as well. And then just not having any like familiarity and direct connection to like their normal everyday life. And so that had to be, I'm sure, super stressful. But the one gentleman, it was Michael, right?
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, that, a person that had respiratory issues and a compromised immune system was actually the person that contracted COVID and, gave it to other people, or other people already had it, whatever it was. But like, we were so concerned about, this thing that was happening, and somebody that probably would have been the likely candidate to pass away or have a really bad outcome didn't have that reaction.
Right.
And we were
all just kind of like, okay, like,
okay. You were like, I don't know. I've seen it on the news.
There's lots of factors, obviously, like lots of people did have really bad time with it. It did kill lots of people.
Right.
That's true. But to live it through that lens was interesting.
It just gave you an opportunity to kind of step back from the fear-based situation and just being like, okay, like I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the way things are playing out, but you got to live a real experience where you're just like, okay, like
we lived the worst case scenario.
You lived the worst case scenario, you lived through it, you survived, and it gave you another opportunity to look at how to handle the situation. And you're just like, okay, for you personally, you're like, maybe let's reevaluate.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back of what everyone is telling me to do.
So, and this all happened just maybe like days before I was scheduled to go get my vaccination.
To keep your job.
To keep my job.
Right.
And so after this, I said, no, thank you.
Right.
And I did that because it didn't make sense to me anymore to require a vaccination to keep the guy safe that gave me the virus that he just survived from and had no issue with.
Right.
It just didn't make sense, With my medical background, and we all know when you get sick with something, you have antibodies for that.
Yeah.
And they were telling me otherwise, and that I still needed to do this. And then it just started to feel really icky and just being like it felt really forced onto me, and like I was not working. That was not working for me.
Yeah.
And so that is what brings us to what happened next, was moving on with my life. So
sure. Well, and to kind of stay where we're at in the storyline, like you not only had to kind of like talk about being in school at that same time too. You're kind of at this like really
so like that kind of
pinnacle point in the story.
I'm at that like transition time. So the stuff with work and like the vaccine was happening, and at school they hadn't mandated anything yet, and they're like, if you're not vaccinated, it's okay, you just need to come take a COVID test before class,
right,
twice a week.
This is for diesel mechanic school.
And I'm like, sure, like whatever, dude, if you want to test me every day before I show up, like that's fine with me,
right.
But then lo and behold, what happens next is the school mandates it, and now every student has to be vaccinated in order to participate. And so to get an education. Yeah, to get an education. And so and I had already paid for this money too to like be in there.
And you're halfway through the first year, or?
Yeah, just about. Like we were like midway through the second semester, so
gotcha.
like, I'm not like that deep into it, but I'm enjoying myself.
Enough.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm like, not to toot my own horn, but I'm in there with a bunch of young guys, and I'm probably like the best student that they have because of my experience and like willingness to like.
You're a little bit older, you're
like,
approaching your 30s, and
I'm like a good candidate for this thing. But it came the point where I had to make the decision of, do I succumb to the pressures around me and do this thing that I don't want to do in order to keep my job and stay in school?
Sure.
And I said no.
Right.
And I said no.
So what I'm hearing is that it didn't even come down to who you support politically, if you're Republican, if you're liberal, if you're religious, if you're not. Like what it came down to was like survival. Like you were like, oh, I have to make this decision just to keep my job or keep my education. Like that's what it came down to. It wasn't about who you supported politically or anything like that.
They were trying to force me to do it.
Right.
and forcing me through the pressure of losing my income, losing my education, questioning how I'm going to be paying bills. So they're like, oh, you're a little iffy on whether you want to get vaccinated or not. How about we just take everything
away from you?
And now you have to do it in order to survive.
Sure. And so what did you do?
Said, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because I'm nice, but I got a little bit of a rebellious streak in me.
Yeah,
and
you were.
At that point, I'm just like.
You're a little difficult growing up with. Once you started telling Neil what to do, it was like, nope.
A little bit of a problem with authority.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened. Lost my job. Got kicked out of school. And then it was rough.
Yeah.
That was a rough time.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of uncertainty. My wife was going through like a lot of the same things. They put a lot of pressure on people that were unvaccinated in Canada.
Yeah.
Like it was scary. Like we were ostracized. They had vaccine passports. Like we were not allowed to go anywhere. Justin Trudeau was on TV calling us racists and like really just bad stuff, man. So it was a dark time.
Yeah,
it was a dark time.
For sure, to be like alienated and then accused of being all of these things, and
not to like. Well, I'm happy to share it, but there was even portions of our family like we were not invited to Christmases. Like we were not allowed to come over and see people.
Yeah.
And Victoria was basically the one, and still is the one, that takes the most care of her grandmother.
Yeah.
And they would like not let her go see her. Her grandfather died during that time. She was not allowed to go into the hospital
to see him. Right.
In the days where he was up there before he passed away.
Sure.
So it was like a lot of hard times, and just looking back, completely unnecessary punishment for our choice.
Right. And, we can try to have compassion as much as we can for the people that are on the other side of the fear-based coin, but it's
there
wild.
Was no compassion for us.
Maybe a little, but then gone. Yeah, at some point. And I guess why I was bringing that up is just to kind of talk about how much fear is used to be able to control and manipulate people, and even, how people react to that fear, and then continue to spread that fear out in different ways without like really thinking about what's going on. You're almost giving up your authenticity or your ability to make decisions for yourself because you're so consumed and you're so worried about it. And it's valid, right? Like
Sure.
I'm afraid to lose my job. I'm afraid to lose my education. I'm afraid I'm going to die. And, a lot of people grasp on to that fear, and then it just like controls them. And
there's a lot of uncertainty, and I don't hold any sort of grudges about it anymore.
No.
All. Like, because I understand that fact.
Right.
And it is what it is.
A lot of people, maybe not necessarily like the higher ups or the people in the know, but most of us were just trying to do the best that we could with the information that we had. We were all trying to make decisions on what to do at that time. People were getting vaccinated because they did want to see their loved ones that were in the hospital, and that was the only reason why they got the vaccine, was because my father or my grandfather or whoever it was in the hospital sick, and like I want to be there for that person. That's the only reason why they made that choice. Or I'm not going to be able to travel, so I want to be able to travel, so I'm going to do it. It was almost just like the things that were taken away from you had to do it to be able to do those things. And
suffer
and a lot of people did, and until it all got figured out. And now it just seems like this really weird dream in 2025 now. You're like, did that really happen? And like, I'm waiting for the Netflix documentary to come.
I'm still waiting for the apology from
some people. That, and I'm also waiting for the Netflix special where they're just like, well, actually, this is what really happened, But I think it's still too soon. We probably got to give it another 5 to 10 years, and then they're just gonna be like, this is what happened. You were up in Canada, I was in the States, and you can talk about Fauci and, all these people and conspiracy theories and da-da-da-da-da, but it's just weird it feels like we don't talk about it as much anymore. I don't know. Is it still a thing? No.
It's not a thing at all. Nobody talks about it.
Nobody talks about it, but you can still go get your shot with your regular flu
I
shot,
still see
right?
the signs for it. Yeah.
For
they still
with
want
your
you
flu
there.
shot, so it's just a
Every
once a
6
year
months or
thing.
something, I
Yeah,
guess, but
interesting.
Yeah. Got to make that money.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a flu shot
Yeah.
in 20 years, and how many times have I
Healthy
got
as
the
ever.
flu?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, you're at this point, a lot of uncertainty. Pick back where you left off.
So after that, it was just about pivoting and just like, got to get a job.
Yeah.
So I started applying to a bunch of places. It actually brought me into like a really fun job that I wasn't expecting. I was still like wanting to work with engines and stuff. So I actually got a job at a junkyard.
Nice.
It was a salvage yard, so
Mm-hmm.
we would buy people's old crappy cars. We'd pull them into the shop, drain the fluids, take the catalytic converters out, put them out into basically a giant field on stands, and then people would come in from the community and pull all the parts off that they need. And
Nice.
we would crush the cars and send them off to recycling, and it was it didn't pay at all, like it was crappy pay, but kept the food on the table.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're outside. You're not like in an enclosed environment with a lot of people when there was still a lot of uncertainty. Like you got to be outside every day. I mean, who doesn't love? I mean, I came up for a visit and got to smash some cars.
That's what I'm saying.
Throw some rocks through some windows. You got all this like built up resentment and anger, and you just like get to go out there and just like crush metal and
there's
like
nothing
break windshields.
Taking the forks of a Komatsu loader and just smashing the hoods of cars and flipping them over. And just, maybe probably wasn't supposed to be doing that, but
did it anyways. No one was
nobody
watching.
knew. It was the Wild West out there, buddy.
I loved hearing the stories, and I loved that job for you. I think that's another point where you just kind of elevated your game as far as your skill sets. You just jumped into something that you kind of were getting into with like the diesel mechanic, right? But this like auto parts world, like you knew nothing about, and then you were just like, oh my gosh, we did this with this car, and I worked with this mechanic, and I learned how to do this, and we took this engine apart, and you're like, you are learning some awesome skills.
I learned a lot of skills. I bought an old crappy truck and fixed that thing up, and just like, bought a lot of cool things and was able to like work on them at the shop. And just like you said, like learning about engines, like from zero knowledge to just like, not that I have a ton of knowledge about cars, but I can, I know if somebody's trying to rip me off at the garage, like I know like what things cost and how long it takes to do certain things. And like, I can, it's going to be a useful skill that I'll carry on for the rest of my life.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So working there was a lot of fun. Did that for a couple years. There was no heat in that garage through the winter. So
Nova Scotia. Hard winters.
As well.
Nipping on a little whiskey to keep you warm.
Well, somebody did get fired for drinking on the job there. Yeah. So, you got that going on.
Sure.
Just cracking a beer in the loader. And I'm like, buddy, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that.
Right.
But, so with that, at that time, again, like looking into something else, like I knew this wasn't going to be supportive of my life in the long term. So I needed to start like trying to expand myself. And then I just started to do more handyman work. Like, my wife was working at a gym chain, a local chain. So they just have like, it's a locally owned business, but they have 4 different gyms of different types, spin studio, lifting, Pilates.
Okay. And this is in Halifax, downtown in the city.
Yep.
Got it.
It's called R Studios. It's awesome. Like the owner, Connie, she's an absolute sweetheart, like just good people. She had bought a new studio and needed to move a bunch of equipment from one to the other and was just looking for somebody to like help do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. Like I have a truck now that I fixed up. I can, I can move stuff around. And it started by me just like moving stuff from one place to another. And then you get to the new place, you're just like, oh, like actually I need like some shelves hung up in here. It's like, would you do that?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, well, actually I need this bathroom painted. Like, do you want to do that? And then it just like kept going and going. I was doing more and more stuff for her. And, as the ball keep rolling, you're just like, actually, like, I could do this. Like, you start like looking around a bit more, putting yourself out there a little bit more. And then, somebody, another friend gets your info and she's like, actually, like, hey, I need some painting done at my studio. Like, do you want to come do that? And so here it comes. Here comes Neil's transition into into the next work thing. So
Yeah.
I did balance between the junkyard and doing this handyman work for a while. Because
Okay.
it was never like I had enough work doing handyman stuff that I could just like jump into that full time.
Okay.
So I just like kind of played in between. At this time, I was also starting another business selling dock products. So I was a dealer for Can Dock, which is a floating modular dock system. I was working with my wife's dad, who was in that industry, and kind of like trying to get that thing sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of different things happening all at once.
Yeah.
And it was kind of tough because none of them were like full throttle. You know, I wasn't like making a ton of money from any of them, but I'm putting in a lot of effort into all of them.
Right.
You know, so just very transitional.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually quit the junkyard just to focus more on the other two.
Yep.
Because it was kind of at that point where I was getting busy enough that I was able to jump in, and I just was like, I got to do it.
Right.
I got to do it.
Yep.
So then I
You're kind of like fragmented, you know, you're only giving like 33% of energy to each thing that you're into. And it's like, well, let's take one off the table and put a little bit more energy in the other two and focus.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it started by just asking for a break from my manager.
Yeah.
And he was a great guy, Zach. He was like wonderful, very understanding guy. I just went up to him and I was like, hey, I need to step back like from here. So I just cut down to like 3 days a week.
Nice.
Did that for like 2 months, and then I went back again. I was just like, yeah, I gotta go. Like,
Right.
I just can't do it anymore.
Yep.
So I ended up starting a business. I call it, it's still going, Atlantic Pride Handyman Services.
Okay.
And just started growing into that industry. The dock stuff that's seasonal. You know, you're only doing that in the summertime, and that can be pretty rough because it's like a mixture of sales, installation, delivery.
Mm-hmm.
It's the full gamut. You know?
Right. And you're wearing all hats.
All hats.
Yep.
Yeah. And my father-in-law was very sick at the time, and he was like, I was relying a lot on him to like take on sales and like do some administrative stuff that just completely, he couldn't handle any of that anymore.
Right.
And so then I was just doing everything
Mm-hmm.
while still trying to do this other, start this other business as well.
Yeah.
So it was a bit intense, but with that only being seasonal, as the season changes, you go into, fall, winter, then it's like full focus on construction, handyman work. And without having been trained in anything specific,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of just like
YouTube.
figuring it out on the fly, dude.
Right.
Like YouTube,
Yeah.
I did one backsplash at my place just to like, cause it needed to be done. And then you're just like, can take on a small tile job. And then you're just like, maybe you're painting in one place and then they just need like a little bit of drywall repair done. So then you're just like figuring that out.
So you're self-taught in construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond like the time that I spent with Tristan, like, cause we did do a lot of like decks and landscape construction. So not completely self-taught. Like he taught me a lot of stuff.
Sure.
Handyman game's different, I mean, the interior of a house, there's a lot of different systems, and it's just like,
Yeah.
if somebody needs you to, replace a faucet, now you're getting into some light plumbing work, and you just like, there's a lot to do with that, just like even learning which PVC glues go with which, like
Got to pay attention.
yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
So pretty much all self-taught and just like kind of learning as I go. When somebody has a task for me that I'm not familiar with, to just like do the research beforehand and see if I'm comfortable doing that.
Right.
Luckily, it was with a lot of friends, like people that I knew that were hiring me to do things. So I would just be honest, like right out the gate, just being like, look, dude, I've never done this before, but I have these other skills, and like I'll give you my best effort.
Yeah.
And just like know that it might not be perfect, but I'm going to do it as right as I can.
Sure. And I think a lot of people are, with the lack of individuals that are going into like the trades industry, it's really, really hard to find people that have a good reputation, that do what they say they're going to do it for, an affordable price and are available. What I noticed when I came up to Canada for like visiting is just like there's such a demand for people in construction that it's so hard to find those reliable people to do that work. And so you kind of found this like little niche where people really needed this handyman skill to do these small projects, and then it's just blossomed into like bigger projects. And what I've noticed while I was up there is just a lack of quality construction people, and I guess the quality, so that then there's a lot of contractors that are up there that I feel like there's like a lot of half-finished projects when I was in like driving around Halifax, that you're just like, yeah, what's up with that house? And you're just like, contractor walked off the job, and it's just like a lot of that going on. And I know that we've talked over the years with you having your own business and it growing year after year after year, that like we will eventually go through the process of filling out an application for me to get a work visa, come up there and kind of help you grow your business a little bit more, which is surprisingly challenging. Being from the States, you would think that you would think that it would be easier, where there are other countries that obviously need help and people want to get out of those countries to make a better life for themselves, and that's important. But being part of the same continent, you would think that being neighbors, that it would be a much easier process. And so, it's really interesting how all of that is set up, and to kind of bring it back to what we were talking about. There's just this huge thing going on in Canada where there's this shortage of people from Nova Scotia that don't have the skill sets, so they're trying to bring more people in. And anyways, you're finding your footing. It is a little messy, so it's just like, and it's growing so much. Nova Scotia and Halifax is growing so much, so
there's
the demand
cranes, man. Just downtown, there's
building
high-rises going up everywhere, like new construction. I mean, we're in a housing crisis in Nova Scotia. Like, there is not enough places to live, and like we are dealing with some of the unfortunate aspects. We have really high rents for kind of one of the lowest paying areas in Canada. Like, we have really high taxes. So we're just going through this really kind of uncomfortable time with our housing market. But knowing that there is this lack of skilled tradespeople and good, craftsmanship, that's what gave me some confidence to just be like, oh, dude, like if I'm willing to just like be honest and like show up and work hard, like people will be okay with me not having all the knowledge just because they know that I'm like going to be there.
Right.
And that like I'm going to be reachable.
Yeah.
And so that was a big step for me to like, be like, all right, like you can go a little deeper into this. Like,
sure.
You can try to take on a little bit more.
Step into some confidence. I think that's what I always admired about you, and like I think why you have accelerated much quicker in construction, because you were able to recognize that you don't have to have this like perfectionist mindset, and that I've got to know how to do everything before I take on a job. And so it's giving you this amazing ability to teach yourself how to do construction. Because you're just like being open, you're being honest. I don't know how to do this. We can try it. I'll research it, and we'll do it for an affordable price. And then all of a sudden you're given that opportunity because you've let go of a perfectionist mindset, and you do it, and it ends up being, and I don't want to say good enough, but like it's good, and people appreciate it because you did what you said you were going to do. You did it for an affordable price. You showed up, you worked hard. And by doing that, you're kind of rewarded with more work, and people are like, this is great. Now can you do this? Now can you do this? Now can you do this? And it's evolved into you starting to kind of take on, I don't want to say like commercial work. Like, you're in there and you're teaching yourself how to like resurface sand down a floor and resurface it. And now you're starting to get into like a little bit bigger money. You're not just doing like handyman stuff. You're starting to bring in and be like, well, I got to do this. And so I got a guy that's a painter, so I got to bring him in, and he's going to paint now. And so you're starting to grow.
Weird how just like, am am I a general contractor now? Like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
What just
I was
happened?
hanging shelves the other day.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, I really admire, I've been in the construction industry anywhere cumulatively for like 15 to 20 years, but I've never stepped into that or stepped out of the perfectionist mindset that like I just always kind of was like a laborer, and I'm just starting to learn. I'm just like in it in project management, and I'm like, I don't think anybody knows everything. Like, you like get into it and you're like, nobody knows anything about it. They're all just kind of like winging it and flying by the seat of their pants, and somehow like the project gets done, and you might take a little bit more time, take a little bit more money, but
okay with the mistakes, like
right.
I work a lot with my wife's cousin, like the one who got me the job originally.
Yeah.
He separated from them and reached out to me because he was starting a site furnishings business.
Okay.
And so they do a lot of like custom work for restaurants and like building like cool custom tables or like indoor pergolas, benches, and he was looking for somebody that he could lean on for extra hands.
Yep.
And so he reached out to me and basically asked if I wanted to work with him in a subcontracting role whenever he needed extra person to do stuff. And I'm like, great. Like, just like we can fill some time, and like we do actually quite a bit of work together. And I was lucky to just like take advantage of that and like use him as a mentor in the business. And like now we have this relationship that like when I take on bigger tasks, if I like, even if I don't have a tool that like I might need, he might have it, and he's happy to loan it and then loan his knowledge. If I need, like, hey man, I've got this like really weird door that I got to put in these steel studs. Like, I'm used to working in only stick frames. Like, what's your best way to retrofit this thing?
Yeah.
And then he'll just like, oh, I'll swing by and we'll just like, talk about it and good
go
luck.
from there. Yeah. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. And
we
did.
Yeah.
We did for sure. So, but just like coming back a little bit, don't be afraid to like make mistakes because everybody does,
Yep.
And even with all his knowledge, like we've done a few projects together and like, we've had to go back and fix some stuff, just like the way that we built it, like wasn't the best way. And then you get a call and you're like, hey, this isn't actually working out. Like we got to figure something else out, and you just show up and you're like, okay,
right.
Like that wasn't the way, but let's make it right now.
Yep. And I think that's really, to kind of tie it back into what we were talking about earlier, of like letting fear kind of control, how you make decisions in life. And so by being able to like let go of the fear of making mistakes, you're actually able to like accelerate and evolve as a person, because you're just like, well, I'm not afraid to make mistakes because everyone does it, and it can all be fixed, and we'll figure it out. So I've always looked up to you in that way, that like you just kind of like let go of fear a little bit quicker.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just like to talk to that. I work very regular with a guy, we're basically pretty much business partners at this point. Like he runs his own company, I run mine, but we work together, almost every day.
Yeah.
And I find that he fits into that a little bit because he's a very skilled carpenter and he knows so much about the industry, but he is just always very afraid to take that step forward. Like he's just, he's too afraid that he's going to lose some money, or that, and I understand he's got kids he's got to take care of, like he's got to be on the ball, but I can just like, I want to see that in him, because I'm like, dude, like you've got it, man. You just got to like have that confidence that like, we can take on more, you can take on more.
Yeah.
And you just like, again, if we don't know exactly how it's done, like,
sure,
we can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely connected with him. I just carried this like level of anxiety of like responsibility, and like what happens if we mess up, and it's going to be fine.
They're all messing up out there every day, dude.
They are totally messing up, and working on this like project management position in this special house that I'm working on here in Columbus, Ohio, that you're just like watching people mess up all the time. And in project management, I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like, you guys need to fix this. Like this isn't right. And they're like, it'll be fine, and you're like, oh my gosh, like mistakes happen.
There's
all
that
the time.
fine balance of like good enough and like making sure it's right. Like let's be honest, like as long there is okay times to be like, it is good enough,
right?
But you just can't let that carry too far in,
Exactly.
It's like that can turn into not good enough.
Sure. It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure.
Well, awesome, man. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to share about your journey? And, I think a lot of the big focus was, talking about how fear controls us, and your big shift from kind of the medical field into construction now, and how that resulted as not being controlled by fear. And I think we kind of hit the main points of it. But is there other things that you'd like to kind of share about the construction industry, your experience, like where you're headed in the future? Any shout outs?
Yeah, for sure. I think going forward, we did just start taking on my first big commercial job. So we're working on a yoga studio up in town. It used to be a hot yoga studio, but I had a friend take over the lease, and she was looking for somebody to work on it. She reached out to a few general contractors and myself at the same time.
Yeah.
Got a few quotes from some actual people working in GC, and then me willing to kind of help her, but also help myself. I took a role of doing this for her on an hourly basis.
Gotcha.
It's been really quite the learning experience, because I've got to dip my toes into this general contracting without having to front a bunch of money or know exactly how everything's going to pan out. And we've kind of had this cool relationship of she had these really high expectations, or wants at the beginning, huge, big design. I want built-ins into this wall and all this, I want to lime wash the whole place.
Dreamy.
So I want to do 1,000 square feet of tile, and, just being able to talk to somebody and be realistic and be like, well, maybe that's not the best idea. And just guiding. So that's been my first jump into commercial construction. I've really liked it, and I'd like to do more of that. So, I've had some good conversations with people you work with, Jeremy and Blake at Compton Construction, and just getting some guidance from those guys. So that's kind of where the future's going.
Okay.
See what's happening. Stay maybe in commercial construction.
Yeah.
Just still being open to whatever else comes. But the last little maybe bit of advice I would give, or thoughts, is just don't be afraid to lean on the people around you and tap into other people's knowledge. And this never would have happened if I wasn't open to accepting, the help from Victoria's boss, of just she's looking for somebody, just don't be afraid to ask your relatives or ask other people, even in different industries, because you just never know what's going to blossom out of it.
Right. Asking for help.
Asking for help. Yeah. Asking for help. Don't be afraid to just put yourself out there, see what happens.
Nice.
And just keep giving it your best shot.
That's great advice, man. And, I think you're going to be extremely successful. Something that you were saying earlier, just kind of talking about this project that you're working on, your ability to just have integrity and honesty with what you're doing.
That's huge.
It's very, very big. And, that is what I think the challenge that a lot of homeowners or businesses have with contractors. And there's this really bad taste, and perception of contractors that they're going to steal your money from you and all of that.
It's 'cause they're out there.
And it is. And, it's very, again, there's a lot of fear around it. And I think if you can bring that level of integrity and honesty, the sky is the limit for you, and you're not somebody that's just well, yeah, we can do the tile, and yeah, we can do this, and
because you're just thinking cha-ching, cha-ching,
exactly.
Be concerned for the person that you're working for, and want the best for them, and don't let making a bunch of money be the driver for what you're doing. It should be integrity and wanting the best outcome for both of you.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. So, well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a great week to hang out with you.
It's fun, dude.
Super excited, to have you in person, and this be the first podcast that we record in person. So, just wanted to say thanks to everybody for tuning in, and just keep following us. Subscribe, all that good stuff, YouTube, website, so on and so forth. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Deeper Foundations. If something you heard today resonated with you, share it with a friend. Leave a review or reach out. I'd love to hear what's landing for you. Until next time, keep building with intention, stay grounded, and remember, the deepest work starts from within. See you on the next episode.